I needed to build a modern media center using nothing but this cat, this knife, and this piece of wood. This is what I came up with. Let me show you how to build it. My wife's been begging me since, I don't know, before we got married, to make her something that she can play records on. Something she can listen to the radio with. Something that's gonna fill the house with music. My glasses reflect like crazy, don't they? For whatever reason, I never built it. And now is finally the time. And this is what I came up with. It's a small, four-legged, white record player. I think I might need to install an amplifier though. This is what I came up with. I wanted to build something that looked kind of old, but also had a lot of the modern amenities that we all take for granted nowadays. Wanted to be able to plug in a tablet, an 8-track, have FM radio. A record player is also essential too. You know, especially for this video, I grew out my hair so I could look just like Gordon Lightfoot. One of the first things I wanted to do was mock it all up in Photoshop and see if it would look right and fit. Once I had that, I had to bring the pieces out, lay them in place, and do a real world mock-up. Now before we get started, I want to make it very clear that I am not a woodworker. I don't play one on TV, I don't pretend to be one, I'm just a regular guy messing around in his shop. Many of you could do better, many of you may do worse. This is just how I went about it. Now that that's out of the way, let's go. I bought a prefab shelf, but the first thing I need to do was add more shelving to it because I just needed more space to fit everything into. I also need to squeeze in the control panel. Once the mock-up was done, I took it out to the garage and tried to figure out how to get more shelves in there. Now the shelves in this unit were adjustable, but I needed a little bit more adjustability inside of it. I needed some smaller cubbies near the top. So simply put, I just picked an arbitrary point and made some more holes, and I was able to slide in the existing shelves just a bit higher. Now that I rearranged how the shelves fit in there, I needed to make some additional ones to hold the records and amplifiers and other things. I bought some Baltic birch because of no other reason than Frank Howarth. And it was just really a matter of sanding it down, cutting to the right width, and making it fit in there. This bookcase used those popular holes with pins in them to hold the shelves up, and I found that the pins kept popping out, so little CA glue on the studs and popped them back into the wood, and the problem was solved. Now, as per the Geneva Convention, all backs on prefab bookcases need to be cardboard garbage. So I took mine and essentially put a billion staples back there, and it tightened the whole thing up nicely. I spray painted the plywood with some basic brown paint, and you'd be hard pressed to tell the difference between the existing shelf and the ones that I added in there. Now I just have to tackle the control panel. Now, one of the more important things that I wanted the control panel to do was be incredibly simple to use for both my wife and my stepson. And that meant making a single volume knob and a couple of basic buttons, and everything should run. I didn't want them to have to switch inputs or do anything complicated just to play some music. In order to do that, I bought a simple RCA switcher and took it apart and hot glued that to a piece of wood, essentially. I plan on using a label maker with clear background tape in it to label the buttons here in the future. big volume knob was next up on the to-do list, as well as the power button. The volume knob was easy enough to set up. I just bought a level control, something you might use in, say, car audio to control the bass volume. I trimmed out the back of the wood so the box would fit in flush. And then it was just a matter of screwing the nut onto the front and attaching a fancy volume knob, which again, I bought off of eBay for a few bucks. The power button I went back and forth on for a while, but I ended up with just a basic wall outlet on-off switch. I wanted to rough up the surface a little bit to give it a little bit of depth and almost texture on the front of the metal. And then I hit it with some brake cleaner just to clean it all up. I was specifically shooting for a old 70s style kind of cheap wood and kind of rough metal type look to it that old turntables and receivers tend to have, and I think I nailed that to some extent. Around back of the bookcase, I wanted to add in some power plugs and power strips in order to power all the devices that I was going to put in this unit. So I screwed them all to the back and got them as tight as I could. Now it was finally time for assembling this beast and seeing how it turned out. I gathered up my mixture of old looking and actual old electronics and started to slide everything in there. Tube amplifiers, FM radio, 8-track, and there's my rat's nest that hopefully nobody will ever see. For the top, I used an old church door and was able to strip the finish off of it, clean it up nice and poly it, and it came out really pretty on top of here. I'm skimming over all the items here, but they are all down in the description below, so if you're interested in any of these things, I'll link you to them. Except for the cat. She's mine. So what do you think of it? I'm really happy with how it came out. I don't think I would change much of anything. Well, if you were a fan of this video, please be sure to check out my other videos from last year. I made a ton of them, and I have a ton of them planned for this year too. So like, comment, subscribe, all the usual stuff. And I will talk to you guys next time.
Wait, before you go, check out my social media profiles. Also, please subscribe. It really means a lot to me. Also, check out some of my previous videos here. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.